welcome to Kids Spring Medicine, where we're going to talk about really common spring herbs that you can find in your garden or out in the wild to help you with all sorts of problems. So let me start by saying that when you are harvesting herbs, you want to make 100% sure that you are collecting the herb you want, that you have identified the herb correctly and it's what you want, because there are some lookalikes out there that are poisonous, so you want to make 100% sure you have the right thing. So I would suggest taking pictures from different sources or even a field guide out with you next time you go for a hike if you're looking for some of these herbs. So I also want to say that plants are our friends and helpers, so we want to respect them, which means we only take what we need. We don't take more than what we need. If there's only one or two herbs in that area, we don't take them at all because we want them to reproduce and make more of themselves. If we take all of the herbs in the area, then they won't exist anymore and our wild friends can't use them and we can't use them. So we want to make sure we're only taking a small amount and what we need. All right, with that being said, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So, common spring herbs. We're going to talk about herbs that are most commonly found in the garden, but can also be found in the wild. And herbs most commonly found in the wild, but can also be found in your garden. We're going to talk about what they're used for and how to use them. I'm going to give you an at-home activity to do outside and on your next hike, and give you some resources for further information. So the common spring herbs we're going to talk about today that are safe for everyone, kids and adults, are mint, lemon balm, chamomile, thyme, yarrow, calendula, plantain, and nettles. So the ones most commonly found in your garden, but once again can be found in the wild, are thyme, lemon balm, mint, calendula, and chamomile. And we'll go over each one in detail. The herbs most commonly found in the wild, but can also be found in your garden, are yarrow, nettles, and plantain. So we're going to start with the herbs in the garden. You probably heard about a lot of these herbs, but you might not know what they're actually used for medicinally. So let's start with one of the most common, which is mint. So this is mint, and mint is found in most people's gardens, but if you want to look for it in the wild, the easiest way to find it is to smell the leaves. If they smell like mint, it's mint. They're also found generally in moist soil near rivers, ponds, streams. They can grow in full sunlight or partial sunlight, and they have a square stem. If you look at the base of the stem, it's a square shape. It's not round like most stems. And mint is most commonly used for tummy troubles like gas, bloating, nausea. Also used as a way to cool off on a hot day. Peppermint iced tea is the best way to cool down on a hot day. And also to freshen your breath. That's why it's used in toothpastes. And you can just chew on the leaves instead of gum and get a minty fresh breath. Next we have lemon balm, which is also in the mint family. So it has this lemony, minty flavor to it and smell. So the best way to identify that is to tear off a leaf and smell it. If it smells lemony and minty, you've got lemon balm. It's also found near in moist soil, so I've found it on hikes near streams and creeks, and it can grow in partial sun or full sun. But it's got these serrated edges on its leaves that look a lot like nettles, so beware. I'll show you the difference between nettle and lemon balm in a minute. But lemon balm does not have hairy stems or leaves, so it's just serrated edges, which is these like tooth-like shapes. And it's for soothing anxiety, lifting your spirits, it's calming, it's cooling, and it's also used for tummy trouble. Next we have chamomile, which chamomile is generally found in fields, in flowering fields, on the edges of paths that border fields, next to stone walls, that kind of thing. And they look like daisies, but they have this wonderful sweet pineapple smell, and that's how you can tell they're chamomile. So they're also used for tummy troubles. They're used for anxiety and nervousness. They're used for crying and whining. We call this the whining herb in our family. It's also used if you can't sleep. It helps you calm down and sleep. It's used for colds and also is a great skin soother if you have irritated skin. Next we have thyme, which is this beautiful fragrant herb. If you've ever smelled thyme, you'll remember that smell. It can be found in the wild as well as in your garden, but some varieties of thyme are not fragrant. And if they're not fragrant, they're probably not going to be used for medicinal purposes. They're just for decoration. So the ones you use are generally shrubs or small bushes, and they have woody stems and these small green little leaves, and they have a smell. They're fragrant. A lot of medicinal herbs are fragrant. They do have a smell, and that's how you can tell that they're medicinal. So thyme can be found generally by rock walls. They like to grow out of the cracks of rocks. They can grow as ground cover, so you can find them that way as well. But they're used as a disinfectant for colds, coughs, sore throat, and infections. Right, calendula, beautiful flowers. They are generally orange or bright yellow, and you can put them in salads. You can eat them right off the stalk. But they're generally used for skin issues such as cuts, scrapes, burns, any skin irritation, bee stings, insect bites, dry skin, but also used internally for fevers and bronchitis. Okay. Herbs in the wild and what they're used for. So these can also be found in your garden, but most commonly found out in the wild. So this is yarrow, and you can tell yarrow by its wonderful feathery leaves. And a lot of times when you're out in the wild, it doesn't grow super tall, and it blends in a lot with the grasses. You have to look really closely, but it's got these wonderful feathery leaves to them, and they're found in the woods, in fields, pretty much anywhere, and all over California because they are pretty drought resistant. And they have these wonderful disc-like flowers. So they're tiny little flowers in like a disc shape, and they're generally white, but they can vary from white to light pink. They're the cut herb. They're used for cuts and scrapes because they stop bleeding almost instantaneously. And they're also used internally for colds, flu, and fever. They're a great fever herb. They get you to sweat out all your fever. Next, we have plantain, which is a great herb to have in your first aid kit because it's great for bee stings, splinters, snake bites, skin infections, poison oak and ivy, and for any types of swelling. And there's two types. So this is the one most commonly found in California. This is what I call California plantain. But there's also broadleaf plantain, which you're most likely to find in lawns, especially at parks in the lawn. But be careful because parks spray with a lot of herbicides and pesticides. So you want to make sure you're collecting it from a place that isn't sprayed because that defeats its medicinal purposes. But it's got these broad leaves and it always has these veins, and it grows in this like rosette shape. So it grows out of a central middle. And a lot of times the flower is one single stalk, and it just looks granular, like it has these little seeds all over it. And this is the California plantain. It also has these veins. You can see all these veins in it. And the leaves are just narrower. And plantain loves to be on the edges of all paths. Like if you're in the wide open in California and you're on a trail, and next to you is this wonderful field, you'll probably find plantain growing right next to that field on the path. It likes where anyone steps. It's like if you step on a place like the grass, you're going to find plantain growing. And it's just a wonderful herb to have in your first aid kit. All right, stinging nettle. Also one of my favorites, but always make sure to wear gloves when you're harvesting stinging nettle. It likes moist places and it doesn't like full sun. So it's going to be found near streams pretty much exclusively, but anywhere where you find, like, I found it near drains, like if you're hiking and the path has this, cut through area where rain drains off, you can find them in there as well. But they have these serrated edges and they have these furry stems, which are the spikes that will sting you and actually give you a sting feeling. But they're extremely nutritive herbs. So they're used for growing pains because they're so high in calcium and iron that they're really good for kids who are growing. And they're good for allergies and hay fever. They have stopped, ironically, they create histamine, when they sting you. They created a histamine response, which is what makes it all red and stinging. But it's also used to reduce the histamine response inside the body for allergies and hay fever. So let's talk about using these herbs. So first we're going to talk about mint. The best way to use mint is just in a tea, and it's probably my favorite way, and most kids will drink mint tea, so I want you to try it. So you just combine a tablespoon of dried mint or 2 tablespoons of fresh mint leaves, and you pour 1 cup of boiling water over those leaves, and you steep it for at least 10 minutes. They say between 10 and 20 minutes. The longer you steep it, and you can steep it up to 24 hours or overnight, and the longer you steep it, the stronger it is, the stronger the medicine. So you can combine those leaves with chamomile, lemon balm for a calming, tummy-soothing, delicious tea. So, as you might guess, lemon balm can also be used as a tea, and it is most commonly used as a tea. Same method, 1 tablespoon of dried or 2 tablespoons of fresh with 1 cup boiling water, steep for at least 10 minutes, and combine it with chamomile and mint for relaxing tummy tea. And chamomile, third one, also used most commonly as a tea, 1 tablespoon dried chamomile, 1 cup boiling water, steep for at least 10 minutes, and enjoy. But it's also, because it's such a great skin herb, it's good for eczema or irritated skin. You can fill a cotton bag with 1.5 cups of chamomile, and you hang it over the faucet of your bathtub. And while you're filling your bathtub, it strains through the herbs, and it just makes this very calming, relaxing, skin-soothing bath. One of my favorite ways to use chamomile. It also smells really good. All right, thyme. It's really good for sore throats and infections and coughs. So my favorite way to use it is a syrup, to make a syrup out of it, and I add it generally to my tea, but you can also just take a teaspoon of it to soothe your sore throat or soothe your cough. So 6 tablespoons of thyme leaf and flour, or just the leaves, in 4 cups of water and 1 cup of honey. So you combine the thyme and the water, you simmer it lightly until the liquid has reduced by half, so you have about 2 cups of water. You strain the liquid and you add the honey and stir to combine. You can store it in the fridge for up to 1 month. So you can use it in your teas or just a teaspoon, like I said, for colds, flus, coughs, and sore throats. All right, calendula. So calendula, also tea, and I excuse the typo here. You're going to combine 1 tablespoon dried calendula, not mint, or 2 tablespoons of the fresh flowers. You pour 1 cup boiling water over, steep for at least 10 minutes, and enjoy. So that's generally for fevers and bronchitis. Also, because it's such a great skin herb, you can just use dried powdered calendula. Dry the flowers, put it in a coffee grinder, powder it, and you just mix it. You can put it in a little dish, take it with you, and mix it with a little water to form a paste. This you can spread on rashes and bee stings, and the powder itself can be used as a baby powder, so for diaper rashes. So it's great to carry around as well in your first aid kit. Yarrow, my kids' favorite. And this is what they always ask for when they fall down. It stops your bleeding almost instantaneously, and there's a couple ways you can use it. So you can, if you find the leaves, you can gently bruise the leaves by chewing on them lightly. You place it on top of the cut that's bleeding, and you cover it with a bandage. That'll stop the bleeding. It's also antibacterial, so you aren't going to get an infection from the leaves itself. You can also use the dried and powdered leaves, and we call it yarrow dust, some people call it fairy dust. But you can dry the leaves and powder it, once again, in a coffee grinder. Put it in a little tin, stick it in your first aid kit, use it in the same way. Someone gets a cut, just sprinkle it over the cut, put a Band-Aid over it or a bandage, and you'll be on your way. We can also use the flowers for a tea. And so you want to use 1 tablespoon of dried white flowers or 2 tablespoons of the fresh flowers. Once again, you pour boiling water over and steep, this time for at least 15 minutes. And it's great for fevers. So next we have, we went ahead here. Plantain. So plantain is also one of those great first aid kit necessities. It's found mostly on trails where you're hiking, so you may not need to bring it with you if you know there's a bunch along your trail. But it's great as an herbal wash for poison oak and ivy. So if you get poison oak, rash, you can make a very, very strong tea with the plantain. You dip a washcloth in the tea and you wash the area with it. Don't dry it with a towel, let it air dry, and then repeat that several times a day as needed. It's also called a fairy bandage because it is sticky, so it'll stick to you. You don't actually need to cover it. So you can use it for bee stings and splinters or snake bites or any of those kind of things. So you chew the fresh leaves to bruise them, and you apply it to the sting or splinter, and you can cover it, but you don't need to because it's pretty sticky. And you just want to change it every hour until the bee sting the stinger is out or the splinter is out, or you have no more pain or inflammation associated with the bee sting or even a snake bite. All right. Last but not least, we have nettles. So nettles is just one of the most nutritive spring herbs. It's just so high in calcium and iron that it's basically great for anyone, specifically growing kids. So the best way to get your nettles is to make pesto. And it's the best way. I love to make pesto. But once again, be careful. They can sting you, so wear gloves. But once you blend it into a pulp in this pesto, the sting goes away and you don't have to worry about it. So 1 to 2 cups of olive oil, depending on how pasty you want it or how liquid you want it. 1/2 cup of chopped nuts, 2 cloves of garlic, 2 cups of fresh nettles, and 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, which is optional if you're dairy-free. So you blend all the dry ingredients in a food processor or blender. Slowly add the oil until creamy, and make sure the nettles are well blended to get rid of the sting, and add to your favorite pasta or on toast or anything where you eat pesto. Okay, so now that you've learned about all of those herbs, I want you to go out and experiment. See if you can find them. See if you can make some of those recipes. But also, I want you to get outside and I want you to research 2 more spring herbs that are great for kids. One is cleavers, also known as sticky weed, and one is milky oats. And I've included pictures in this video of these 2 herbs. So you might want to go back in the video and see if you can find those pictures that I didn't talk about. So cleavers is one of my favorites, and it's very easy to identify because it's sticky. It's like Velcro, it'll stick to you. And then milky oats is another great one. So I want you to figure out, what do they look like? Where are they found? What are they used for? And what herbal remedies can you make with them? Then I want you to go on an herb walk around your neighborhood and see if you can find yarrow, plantain, nettles, lemon balm, cleavers, or milky oats. Record in your journal where you find them, because then you can go back every single year and find them in the spring and what they look like. So once you know where they are, it's easy to find them every year, and then you have your source of those herbs that you can always find. And then make one of the herbal remedies found in this lesson and record your experiences in your nature journal. So record what it tastes like. Record if you like it or not. Record if it works. So if you get a cut and you use yarrow, write down if it actually worked to stop the bleeding or not. And then last but not least, you can buy some seeds and grow some of your own spring herbs. That's probably one of my favorite things to do, is to just plant all of these herbs at home, because then you have a good crop of them and you can harvest them whenever you want. So those are the at-home activities I would like you to try. You don't have to do all of these herbs, and I would suggest starting with one. So if you have one that you really want to find, like say you really, really want to find yarrow, make it your goal that every time you go outside, you look for it. And you bring along pictures or a field guide so that you can find it and identify it correctly. And see if you can find it in multiple locations. And once you find a really good patch of it, make sure to record where you found that, because you're always going to want to go back for more. So those are some of the at-home activities that I want you to do this week. And along with this video on my website is a little guide to show you how to identify the herbs, what they're used for, and how to use them. And it has all of this at-home activity on the last page so that you have that reference and you can take it with you anywhere you want. So last but not least, I would like to give you some resources. So these are my 2 favorite herbal resources for beginners and for kids, because the kids herb book, you know, all the herbs in it are safe for kids. You don't have to worry about any of the stronger herbs that are generally not recommended for kids. So this is a kids herb book for children of all ages by Leslie Tierra. and it's my favorite. It's got coloring pages in it. It's very kid user friendly. It's got recipes, it's got songs, it's got stories, it's got history about the herbs. It's really, really good book. And then Rosemary Gladstar's Medicinal Herbs, A Beginner's Guide by Rosemary Gladstar. I did my herbal certification with her, and her book is great because it teaches you how to grow these herbs as well as identify them and use them, and gives you recipes. And they are all, unless stated otherwise, also safe for kids. So these are my two favorite beginner books. So I would start with these. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want more information, more videos, if you want the resources that go along with this lesson, just check out regenlives.com and you'll find all that information. So thank you. Hope to see you all next week.